Hi there, and welcome to Being the Main Contractor to the Main Contractor. This really is Groundbreak, one of my favorite weeks of the year, and I hope that you're really enjoying all that Groundbreak has to offer. I'm Chris Carter, Product Marketing Manager at Procore. One of the things I love most about our customers is the incredible bond that we have with them and the relationships that we build. And one of the best things about my job is being able to work with and engage with those customers on a day-to-day basis and to really learn those stories. And one of the best things really is being able to amplify those stories at events like this. Now, I met Charles Bull, who is Operations Director for HBS, almost a year ago now, and we became really fast friends as he shared his story and his vision for turning HBS, which is a family-based M&E contractor based in the south of the United Kingdom, into the main contractor for the main contractor, or to a US audience, the GC to the GC. They really do put customer service at the heart of their vision. And they've really embraced technology in an incredibly creative way to be able to do that. So I'm delighted to be able to introduce Charles to you now. And we're just going to kick off by asking a few questions. And maybe tell me a little bit about the HBS Group Southern business and your overall approach.
Thanks, Chris. So Charles Bull, Operations Director at HBS Group Southern. Our business is a family-run business. It's been operating since 1950. Its roots are in mechanical subcontracting. And in the past 70 years, we've managed to have it grown into an award-winning M&E business. And since 2008, this business has expanded into the renewable energies market to meet that market demand. As a business as ourselves, to give an idea of our numbers, HBS Group Southern typically has around 150 subcontractors, electricians, plumbers, and apprentices working on numerous different projects across the UK, different locations, and we'll go into more detail later. But that means we have a really clear view on our performance is critical to our business, and a bit more about our numbers and a bit of the scale and what we deal with. At HBS, like I said, with those 150 subcontractors and trades personnel we have, they can be across 50 projects, and those projects vary in sizes from tens to hundreds of plots per project, with each plot we're tracking at 19 key stages. And again, as you can imagine, manually, that's a lot of risk to us, a lot of effort and energy goes into that. But again, I'm confident we'll go through this sort of stuff in as we talk today. And there's lots of moving parts, as you can imagine. It's not just us, there's many other trades on site as well. So again, we are combating that an awful lot. One of our ethoses at HBS is we really place our clients' needs at the center of everything we do. The systems we're now developing using Procore are helping us to take that to the next level. The visibility this allows us gives us the foresight so we can manage those client needs much better.
That's great. And I think for a little context, and especially for our international audience here today, can you tell me a bit about how the traditional subcontractor, main contractor relationship can work at construction companies, and what have you seen? I know you try to set HBS to be different from how that typically works. But what does that relationship typically look like within construction?
That's a really good question. I can't, it's not like a one size fits all answer, but again, generally speaking, we do see there is a variety of approaches taken over the relationship between main contractor and subcontractor. The majority can be characterized within our own sphere, by having quite a basic traditional setup and often with a half-hearted or low-tech adoption. With quite often sporadic and inconsistent sharing of information. There's a general feeling, certainly with us, and this feeling helps us set our targets and what we can try and do with our clients. There's a general feeling that we're being driven by a very changeable program, very changeable timetable, but we're never really a collaborator within that. And we would like to, in one of our systems, again, we'll go into it in more detail. What we're always trying to do is our main headline objective is try and become that partner and as the title of the session, the main contractor, the main contractor. And lastly, on this point, it can be particularly challenging for us as an M&E, because again, the M&E for us, and I do believe this should be industry-wide opinion, is a crucial component of the overall build. During the build, we interface with virtually all the other trades, and we are very much linked to their performance, and we've also got to react accordingly to that. So, I may be perceived as being as biased, but generally, what I have experienced is that this approach is not often seen or evidenced by the main contractor. There's no real often recognition of this, or want to collaborate to produce a better end product. Business-wise, obviously, we are very conscious. It's important to maintain relationships. It's really important for us. So we've got to absorb all these things which we see, those examples. We've got to just basically accommodate as best we can, because the main contractors and developers are our lifeblood. At the end of the day, we are dependent on them. Basically, without them, we're non-existent, really. So we've got to work within their systems. Something we try and do is always work with them, support them. And again, as always, I'll come back to this quite often. If we can recognise the client's needs and produce and basically meet those needs better than our competition, then it's a tick in our box, and I think we'll continue to build that relationship.
Absolutely. Thank you, Charles. And I think one of the things that really struck me, when we first started talking was just the sheer scale at which the HBS Southern business really operates, right? So you're working with typically tier one house builder contractors, some of the largest around. And typically, you'd be working with 50 to 500 plots for each of those. Across 10 to 20 different projects. And each one of those would have a kind of 10 to 20 stage checklist. And I've got to admit, for me, that was a real eye-opening moment when we were kind of going through and talking about it, about just the sheer scale. And I couldn't imagine trying to manage that through manual processes. Can you talk to me and tell me through some of the ways you work to kind of get ahead as a business?
Yeah, no, you're right. We pride ourselves on the fact that we are working with, the best developers out there, and obviously we should continue to do that and grow that client base. But yeah, so as an approach for ourselves, we do always try and be one step ahead of the competition. We're constantly challenging ourselves on the ways we can support the clients. And it's been a very successful approach over the years. At HBS, I've mentioned this, we have a philosophy of positioning ourselves to support the main contractor as much as possible. This requires great energy and effort from all involved. Every person's got a part to play. The mechanical and electrical work is, in my opinion, often undervalued, but it's so important to build that you have to be working hand in glove with the main contractor at all times. If we can support them to do their job, coordinating the trades, giving them the visibility to the data that we capture, that will help us as well as them. And that's one of our approaches is, if it benefits them, it's quite likely to benefit us. We have been and are continuing to work on systems and have conversations with our clients to market ourselves as the main contractor. And what I mean by that is, we are working hard to be the main contractor, staying ahead on the project and the pipeline of work, and providing guidance, which we hope to influence the project timeline. So again, it's all about us doing the legwork, doing the analysis, and giving over to the main contractor, and hopefully they'll receive that, in a well-received manner and action upon it, and again build that coordination, that collaboration. Alongside this forecasting of work, building data and sharing, one of the things which we take on board and is extremely very high priority for us is our quality control and assurance. We've got a multi-tiered sign-off process, which is robust and accountable. Other trades out there can have faulty workmanship, obviously, but if plumbing or electrics go wrong, this can have a life-altering impact on the homeowner or others, even other people on site. And this is something which can never ever happen, as a result of our works. And we take considerable steps to ensure that this doesn't happen. So with this, really, it's a constant topic in our conversation. We never let it go off the radar. And basically, we believe that this sort of approach helps our current residential client base, helps us maintain that, helps us grow it. And we're also hoping that with this approach we're having and the expansion of that approach using our digital transformation and going through this process, we believe this will help springboard us into the M&E commercial market as well. So it's our belief that these systems and our previous experiences are in tune with the M&E commercial market, and we hope to see ourselves grow into that.
Yeah, and it's such a fascinating thought that, and definitely really struck with me when we first started talking of being that the main contractor to the main contractor, or for a US audience, the GC to the GC. That philosophy of being one step ahead and transforming what was a kind of transactional back and forth relationship into something that's a real partnership, where you're bringing all stakeholders together onto one platform, really because you acknowledge the importance of your role within that value chain. As you say, the fact that you're at the heart of that transaction, and if the M&E has the life-changing impact, if it goes wrong, it can't afford to, and you need to be remaining so incredibly close. I think what would be really interesting next, if we could perhaps talk a bit about the challenges, and you've touched on this a little bit already, that you face as an M&E contractor specifically, in this really complex and changing world, and this changing project landscape.
It's the challenge is programming, scheduling, and meeting the demands of change. We understand that there's change. We understand that these things happen, but one thing which even we struggle to do sometimes is, you might often get sent a program on a Friday, which is fantastic. We love that, but then on Monday or a Tuesday it's changed, and again we have to be able to step up and do what we can to support our clients and developers in managing that change. It's quite often not their fault. But but as a challenge, it's still a challenge nonetheless, and which we have to try and combat. And with that in mind, that's also one of the reasons what we're trying to do. It's one of the things which we have identified as a client need. It's one of the troubles which they face is, obviously, if they're experiencing program change, we're experiencing it. And if we can help them with the data we collect, with these stages we track across all these plots, it serves us. We're hoping they will see it serves them as well. They can see from our analysis where each plot is, and they can also see those pressure points and then hopefully apply pressure on the relevant subcontractor. Maybe it's us, maybe not, but apply pressure on the relevant subcontractor to maybe up their workforce or just sort themselves out necessarily. But the program and that continued change is quite some challenge sometimes.
Yeah. And I think it's really part of a typical journey that we see, when companies start to adopt construction technology and to kind of bring it onto the job site. Often, the first thing that they will look at is often around just digitizing documents and increasing that connectivity. But what they often find, and which I think is what you kind of touched on there, is really that they have a solution which enables them to provide their own teams with visibility of the job and the status, but also provide that reactivity and the adaptability to change that you look for across the particularly complex work that HBS Southern does. I think it'd be really interesting just to dig in for the benefit of the audience. What does an average job look like for HBS Southern? Obviously, we've talked around the kind of contractors that you work with. You've got the tier one. I know you're active in doing some work with solar as well. But what really are kind of the defining characteristics of the work that you do as subcontractors when you're trying to set yourselves apart?
Yeah. I think we touched on M&E and as well as you had said there as well. Renewable energies, we're quite a strong player within the solar market, and we're seeing huge growth within that. From the solar side of things, we do act both as the main contractor We work for a number of utility companies. So again, we do draw upon those experiences when we are subcontracting, which puts us in a position which not many of our M&E competition can draw upon. But so just from an average job within HBS, again, as you're aware, Chris, but the audience won't know, we've been going through this change for best part of 2 years now. So prior to us adopting this digital transformation, everything was very manual. Our ethos has always been the same: client needs is trump, quality control, insurance is trump. It's always been our main priorities. But how we manage that is now changing. And we've done very well over 70 years with that. But these last 2 years, we've really streamlined that an awful lot, and it's about becoming an efficiency. I think a lot of people can do what we do. That the market isn't saturated, but it's getting there. There's an awful lot of mechanical and electrical contractors out there. An awful lot of them have got all the same standards and qualifications what we've got, ISO standards. But what we're focusing ourselves on, how can we be more efficient at what we do, and be more efficient than our competition? And that's why hopefully our client will see that and say, yeah, those guys are better at it. Let's go with them. As you mentioned, we work with many of the trades on site. We have to be able to, react to how they're performing. They're under their own stresses. They've got their own agenda. As you've also mentioned, we have multiple projects across the country, are all with multiple plots, and all those plots are quite often at different stages. And again, we've got those 19 stages. They could all be at different stages, and that all means each stage means something to us. For example, I've got one there off my board here: stairs and top tack complete. That basically means I'm going to be first fixing within 2 weeks. So we'll be forecasting our labour, forecasting our materials, and again, it'll be heightened up within our labour meetings. Right, let's just say plot number 1, stairs and top tack is there. Have you made? I can't see them on a material order calendar sort of thing. So again, it prompts us all to have that necessary conversation to make sure the controls are in place, that we deliver what's required. We do think that we are getting better at this. We're not perfect, but the more we get ourselves involved, and again, it's on our radar, we think we're getting better and better at it, and we're becoming more confident as well. Again, it's a big change for us. This is going from our manual system, paper-based, to digital. We've been dipping our toe. We've had quite a slow process, but it's being controlled. I think that's quite a key thing to ensure you do. But yeah, so it's plot programming is really key for us. That's one of our major aspects. As well as that, as I mentioned, it's the QMS side of things, the quality management systems. I mentioned previously paper-based. We've got a first fix, a second fix, and a files commissioning checklist, all 3 individual documents. And then we've got a 4th document, which was then countersigned by the site supervisor in charge of that area. This is very ownership. And again, it worked really well. We're confident, and if we ever got questioned by a developer, can I see your quality control for this site or for this plot, we could produce it very easily. But it wasn't in line with our growth plans. Again, it wasn't scalable, just as much as our forecasting and plot management. It wasn't scalable. So again, we took a real keen effort to look at this, and we've digitalized it, and we're really proud to say that. And I went to a pre-start last Thursday, and I had my iPad there, and I showed them the system. I said, look, you'll see everything we see. You see all our quality management system, all the photos are there, and they were really pleased with it. And and it does nothing but good for us. So basically, I've diverted it slightly, but what I was trying to put across is our average job 18 months ago is different from what our average job is now because of this transition process which we're going through.
You touched on a really interesting point there, which was around kind of culture change and managing that process of moving towards a digital solution and a digital platform as you go. As a contractor that's been on this journey today, what advice would you give to a contractor who's looking to implement a technology platform?
The journey for us it's been good, actually. I know I paused for a second there, but it has, because something which has really helped us though is at the early onset of us, when as a business we decided to go through this, we've decided to go for, let's just look at digital transformation, with the ethos of what are our clients' needs, trying to get them to match our needs, which we're pretty good at. And, we set ourselves some key objectives. I think I touched on it, but not in a huge amount of depth. But some of our key objectives was basically really simple ones, but just high level, simple stuff. It was giving us that foresight. Managing those key stages, those 19 key stages, make it so that we can see them live. We can now do that. We can now see live. Our contract manager will go to site. He'll do an update, and we can virtually see it within the hour. That if I'm honest, it was less than that, because as long as you've got Wi-Fi, it goes straight through. But very quickly, basically, live data comes through. We can see what they're seeing on site. Again, it gives us a huge benefit is the procurement. The procurement can then see that, and then they can start planning and making those necessary orders. Again, forecasting is key. So we set those key objectives. Those key objectives is basically that plot progress, the key stages, and quality control. It's really simple. I know people might think that's not much, but for us it's huge. Because it's large scale, bitty stuff on a high volume, requires lots of manual input. So we thought, if we can use technology to help us streamline that, again, make it more efficient, then it's a win for us. So we set those key objectives. We kept them at the forefront of all our discussions. And again, this is before actually you guys came on board. We kind of did this, and we're going through investigating, doing our due diligence on a number of platforms. And when you talk and brief with different providers, sometimes they might not be able to achieve those key objectives, and they'll give you other things that they can do and kind of whiz you and wow you on these sort of things. And we had to at times just really pause and think, oh, hold on, that does sound amazing, but it doesn't hit our core objectives. So thank you, but no, sort of thing. So it's really thing, and keep those key objectives, and always have them at the forefront when you're assessing the platform. Then also the only other thing I can really say is basically think about the technology and how you're going to implement it. Think about the diversity of your audience, and how some may be more receptive or more skilled to pick it up, and how you support those that are not. So, we've got a very diverse range of a workforce. I've mentioned we've got those 150 subcontractors, apprentices, etc. Each of the different skill sets. Some are great with technology, some haven't. We've got guys in our workforce who barely learned to send emails a year ago, sort of thing. So it's been a challenge for them, and we've had to change our way we approach and educate them on how to use the Procore. Might be team them up with someone who's good with it, so they work together. So again, we are fortunate in that respect, that as we're not a huge giant, of a business, we can be much more bespoke with our implementation, and I think that's quite key for us for the success. And I'm happy to say that we are seeing that success now. I've got those people who, at the initial onset, I was a bit more nervous about, thinking, again, I don't cast generalizations, but you would think that person may be a bit more against it. There's a bit more experienced individuals who only send emails. They are now some of our biggest advocates. So when we have our get-togethers in this post-COVID, almost post-COVID world, that they talk about it, and they're doing selling for us. They're telling the other subcontractors out there how beneficial it is to them. And that's what's been great about it. So again, in summary, it's set those objectives and make a plan on how to implement.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think one of the things that we always stress to contractors and owners that are coming on board is really arriving with that really clear idea of what you actually want to achieve, and where you want technology to take you as a business. And I think, the phrase kind of being the main contractor to the main contractor really, I think, just sums up so much of that. You'd set that as your North Star, and how you achieve that is through the quality control and through through the control of the program. Now I want to come back, I think, to one really kind of amusing comment that I think in our first session together when we first met, you said we never saw ourselves as being the kind of business that would have dashboards on the walls. And obviously, like, one of the great things is you've checked the dashboard but right there. And I think this is a really nice kind of segue into just talking around how analytics is supporting HBS as a business.
Yeah. Analytics was something which I never thought I'd ever be, talking about, let alone using, or, in any way or form. It's always been way above my IQ. But basically, what we've found out is basically with the Procore, we're capturing all this data, and Procore does present it in a way which is beneficial to all of us. And I think hopefully I put that across succinctly. But with analytics, it takes it to the next step. It presents it in a much more visual way, much more. I'm trying to think of the word. Flexible, durable, whatever you like. It makes it in a way which everyone can see and understand, and allows us to review it, and again, much more efficiently. So the data is there. We set it up now so that you can have a look at this dashboard, and we've got a lovely graph. And again, you can see either by developer or by sites or any number of ways of filtering it. How things are progressing, what the stages of happening on that site. Again, helps us identify those pressure points, those material orders, and it's even more important than ever right now, which we're experiencing, is to be able to. We're pretty good with labour. We've got 70 years of operating as meant we've got a good labour resource, good bank of labour, really strong individuals out there, and we've got a good relationship with them. So if we call them, so look, I need you to jump on this job, can you go there? They'll do it, sort of thing. Materials, however, is a bit more out of control. As a small to medium enterprise, we haven't necessarily got the flex a big regional or international business has got, saying that you must get it there, sort of thing, or we're going to hit you with all my legals. So we have to be able to forecast much more. And with COVID and Brexit, this issue got exacerbated. There's plastic issues out there at the moment. Just some of the basic components are becoming very hard to come by. So that's why it's so important with the analytics we've got now. Procore's gathering this data. It's so simple as well. I never imagined it would be this simple. The contract managers say what stage they're at of those 19 stages. That pings over the Procore. We see that. Analytics automatically takes that and presents it into a graph which we can read. And again, our head of procurement and procurement team can see that. And basically they'll review that against their order book and say, right, this one's missing. And they'll get it on there, get it made ready. And it just helps us and helps our supply chain. It just makes the process, again, efficiency. It's the key thing for us right now. And the more efficient we are, the better we can serve our clients. So yeah, analytics helps us hugely with that. So that's our internal sort of things. Externally, it gives us a great platform. It's really professional. It lets us present ourselves to the client side, again, in a way which we never thought we'd do. Pivot table and a spreadsheet, it's nothing compared to the analytics. So it produces a report for us, and we can show to the developer how all their sites are performing. And what I mean by that, it's not like we're assessing them, but it's performance in respect of, the senior directors want to see it. The conversations I've had with them so far is they love it. They like seeing these graphs on what stages, how many sites they've got on build, how many plots they've got on those sites which are in build, and what stages. So it makes us seem that much more professional. And again, doing that extra step which our competition aren't doing. I think, as you mentioned, I've looked at it several times whilst we've been talking. I never ever imagined, 5 years ago, us being in this position, having this. I've got this lovely picturesque bar chart, and again, it can be made in any different forms. I prefer the bar chart, and you can see it so easily. And what I'm really confident about as well. We've only just started on this journey, really. In our life cycle, with 70 years we've been operating. We're now just over 18 months in this journey. So I'm excited. I can't wait to see where this takes us. And I know it's going to get better and better.
No, thank you so much, Charles. And thank you for really embracing and investing in this journey of digitalization within construction. I love how you've taken the philosophy that was really true to HBS as a business, which is of being that main contractor to the main contractor, being on the front line of the work that you do in supporting your GCs, and that you've looked for ways in which technology can support that through the QMS system, through the inspections, and through the analytics. It's been really great to join you and just have you share your story with us today. And we look forward to continuing the discussion in the Q&A.
Great stuff.